Hey Jack, hey everyone. So I'm Dave from Ireland and I'm working on ToDesktop. So what ToDesktop does is it converts your web app to a desktop app and then you can deploy that desktop app to your customers. So what are the benefits of a desktop app over a web app? Let's take a look at the data. So users of Front's desktop app spend 34% more time on app than their web users. And Slide's desktop app triggers 30% more actions, more user actions than their web app. So what does this mean? So if users are spending more time using the app, then empirically we know that this leads to an increase in user retention. So let's jump in and let's look at a demo. Here's one of our customers. This is Interplay running in a web browser. What we can do is we can take Interplay's URL and we can enter it into ToDesktop. ToDesktop's going to try and guess the correct logo and the details from the app from the URL. But what we can do is we can supply our own logo and we can see what that's going to look like in the dock on Windows and Mac. And then we can enable a ton of options. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to turn on transparent title bar and make it look a little bit more native. And then when we're happy with that, we hit build and our app is ready to go for Windows, Mac, and Linux in just a few minutes. So this is what it looks like as a desktop app. There's no distractions. So we compare this to the distracting web interface that I had before. My icon is now in the dock, so it can be opened in just one click. And I have access to APIs that web apps don't. For example, I can trigger a native desktop notification. So we started out showing how a desktop app will increase time spent on your app, increase engagement, and increase user retention. Then we showed you that you can get an icon on your dock, so your app can be accessible in one click from anywhere. We showed you the more focused user interface. So the idea here is that you've no browser toolbars, no tabs, no distractions, and access to native desktop APIs. We're currently doing 5K a month and we're growing at 60% month over month. So everything I've shown you here is live and ready to go at ToDesktop.com. We've also got a product that will take your web app and convert it into a menu bar or tray application. And if you have a desktop app already that you built without ToDesktop, then you can use our CLI. So that's going to take care of installers, auto updates, and crash reports for you. So look, we're all living in a world now where we're working from home, where everyone is moving to desktop. If time on app is important to you, if user activity is important to you, if user retention is important to you, then you should consider using us. That's all I got. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, Dave, this is awesome. I think this is like the type of technology that you see where you're like, wow, if that really works, a ton of people would want to use this. So I think my first question is like, how robustly does this work? Is this something that a startup will use, and then if they prove traction with their desktop app, then they'll want to take it in-house and build it? Is this something that they install and then it'll last forever? Like, how robust is this tech? Like, how far will it go?
Yeah, so like as I showed you, the first step is you just take your web app URL, you put it into desktop, you build it, you can then distribute it to your customers. And then, so we've got a few steps after that if you want to really grow with your application. So what you can do, I'll just show back on my screen sharing here just to show you a couple of things. So for example, let's say we want to do some more desktop stuff. So if we have existing web app code, so in our web app, let's say something happens, and I can use my existing web app code, but I put my desktop logic inside of a window.ToDesktop conditional. So the idea here is that I can make my icon bounce and I can put a little label on it. So the idea is that your web app is your core competency. That's the thing you spend all your time on. So that should still be the case. But you can add these little snippets of desktop specific logic, and you still have one repository, you still have one place you're using it. And then if at some point in time you want to eject out of ToDesktop, what you can do is you can use our CLI product. And that means that we still take care of the auto updates, the installers, we still take care of code signing, which is absolutely horrible. And we spin up our crash report server for you. So there's a whole process right from the start where you just enter a URL all the way through where you can eject out the other end, and you can effectively own your desktop app.
That's awesome. So you have 57 customers already. How did you get those? And did those customers already have desktop apps, or are they all people who had only a web app and you were their first desktop app experience?
So for our web app to desktop product, which is the one we showed there, they all came through word of mouth. They all came through, well, initially through Product Hunt, and the majority of them would be small startups. So I guess we think of them as the next, like the next Slack, the next Spotify. So that's kind of where it makes sense for that product, companies that don't already have a desktop app. But then for our CLI product, what we found is that existing customers, so like existing customers already have a desktop app, we can just reach out to them. So we've been in the last few weeks, we've been reaching out to customers who have Electron apps, Tandem, Sunsama, Linear, companies like this, who are at kind of a seed stage. And for them, it's a no-brainer because they don't want to manage this infrastructure, right? They're application developers. They want to write application code. They don't want to be bothered with the auto update infrastructure or the code signing infrastructure. In the same way that for the web app, they don't want to rewrite AWS or whatever infrastructure they're running on.
Makes sense. How are you thinking about where this goes? Are you spending your time thinking about improving the existing CLI and conversion to desktop, or are you thinking about more products along these lines? What does the next year or two look like?
Yeah, so we're focusing on the CLI now, just because it's such an easy step to sell it. We can just reach out to people who already have desktop apps, and we can sell that. Like all growth so far has been 100% organic, no paid advertising, and like we feel that there's a few things we can do. We can go freemium. I think that'll help us attract more users, and we can include branding on the free version. I think as well, like one step to growth is there's a huge piece around educating people. Like companies spend a lot of money on user retention and reducing churn. ToDesktop is a super low friction way to improve these metrics. So we need to get that message out there, and I think that's a good way for us to grow.
That makes a ton of sense. I'm getting the notification that our time is up. Dave, this is really cool. That growth is really impressive, and the product, most of all, is something that I think a lot of people could use. So I'm really impressed. That's awesome.